Good afternoon. Welcome. You're listening live to Heart-to-Heart, a program which aims to understand and to become your loving self. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidan. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, a certified sexologist in private practice located in beautiful Encino, California. And I'm here along with my best friend, my colleague, my business partner, Dr. Robert Jaffe. He's going to introduce himself further.
I'm further introducing myself. My name is Dr. Robert Jaffe. I'm here to.
Talk closer a little bit, I guess. Never mind. We always have this thing going. Okay.
I'm here to help everybody understand their authentic, true, loving selves. And I'm in the process of doing that myself. And the more I understand who I really am, the better I feel, the happier I am. And I've been doing this thing what we call psychotherapy and counseling for many years. I started in 1984, and been working full time since then. I've learned a lot. Can't wait to share it with you. And today we're going to be talking about a subject that is near and dear to all our hearts, and something we love to talk about, but we hardly ever do, and that is our sexuality.
Yes.
Our
Right.
sexuality and relationships and improving and bettering ourselves through the understanding of what it means to be truly loving.
Exactly. And if we would like to hear from you, so we are inviting you to please call us. Our phone number here live is 951-922-3532. This show belongs to you primarily. We are here to answer your questions. And when you ask us what you have in mind, it better help us to provide you with what you want to hear from us and the kind of a guidance that we can offer you. At the same time, by questioning, you are helping so many others that they are not able to contact us, but they are able to hear us. So your contribution is valued and appreciated. And thank you for spending this hour with us. As Dr. Robert Jaffe stated, the program that we have in this hour is about human sexuality, and we are approaching that from scientific point of view, from research point of view, and therefore we're going to go over what we primarily hear in our therapy office and also what we get our hand on in research. And I am myself and Dr. Jaffe in research about, we do many research in human sexuality. And we know that the science is behind this concept of life as much as it is ignored. But then again, we know that since 1950 is actually started to grow, and we are happy to see the growth. And we know that we have to go to much further, in learning about our sexuality than where we are today, even though we believe that this is a significant progress, but it's still nearly not enough. Right.
Always learning, always growing,
right.
In order to learn how to be more loving.
Right.
And communicate that lovingness to the people that we care about.
Exactly. Many of what public knows about human sexuality primarily is not so much on education based, but based on what has been transferred through generational transfer form, I would say. So from family to family, from friends to friends, and via some personal experiences, and also what we see on movies or on porn or read about it on magazines and books. But to look at it from scientific point of view gives us actually more depth, more insight, more understanding about how our sexuality works. One of the areas that we have been talking about for the past 2 weeks, it's been about what basically kills sex drive. And why is this important? And I'm still continuing to stay with that because, partners we see in our therapy office, instead of understanding what's going on with each other, with one of the partners that doesn't seem to be interested in having sex, instead of looking into the cause, instead of looking into the understanding of that, they actually blame each other for not being, for example, interested in another one, or the love has died, or maybe there is an affair going on, or maybe there is something wrong with the partner, or one of them who's not being receiving the sex. But we know that variety of factors can contribute and does contribute to having lack of sex, desire, basically low sex desire, low sex drive, right? However we want to term it. And once we know about these things, and once we bring, what's going on with a given couple in our therapy sessions, and for them to realize what, holds back their sex drive, when that clarity happens, then we see that the love is there, the relationship is there. Once the understanding is there, you and I talk about this concept that, we rather be right than understanding, right?
Yes, we'd rather be right than be close.
And be close than understanding each other. And that's based on the concept of fear primarily,
yes.
In sense of insecurity. And sense of insecurity is something that, we learn in our childhood, and we grow up with that. So if we are functioning from a perspective of fear, from the perspective of insecurity, then we are not open into learning about our partner, but we are, go in a defensive mood, we go in the blaming mood. Instead of that, that's the perspective that we learn to operate. And that not only we apply that in everyday relationship at work, or with any other relationship that we have, we also apply it into our most intimate relationship, or romantic relationship. And these two attitudes, the blaming attitude, and also the insecure attitude, causes us, many good relationships. As a matter of fact, if we don't want to look at it and to understand it, how somebody who was intimate with us now doesn't have that sense of, connection, that sense of intimacy. And basically, we want to know. So what is science says about that, and not so much myths of the society.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just looking here. I came across a quote. I don't know who said it, but I want to share it with the audience because I liked it. The quote is, "Immature love is about listening to the same radio station, WIIFM, all day long. What's in it for me? Mature love is wanting the best for your partner. Seeing them grow is your joy, even at the cost of separation."
That's a beautiful one.
Yeah.
That's a very beautiful quote, and I like for me to have that, if you don't mind. Can you forward it to me?
I can definitely forward it to you.
Thank you so much. That reminded me of a quote by Rumi, the famous poet, right? Rumi said something not exactly like that, but just reminded me of that said, how is your sexual experience is not my sexual experience. How I see my sexuality doesn't mean that you see your sexuality. Yours is yours, mine is mine. Right? So for as long as we can accept you as you, me as me, then we can move forward together.
That's beautiful.
Right? That's what he said. And so for the past 2 weeks, like I said, we have gone through what basically, causes low sex drive, or as a matter of fact, according to this article from WebMD, what kills the sex drive, because that's how intense, situations can be, right? It becomes a matter of life and death for couples. When sex doesn't happen, they're wondering, what happened? What did I do? I mean, that's the first thing that they say. What did I do? What's wrong with me? Right?
Right.
And the reality is, it doesn't have to do with anything being wrong with anybody, right? There are a variety of factors that, causes low sex drive or no sex drive for a short time, for a, long time, or even for a much longer time if nothing is done about it, right? So I'm just going to go over the summary of what we have said before, and then I'm going to go and continue with the rest of it. And if time permits, I like to focus on actually low sex drive in female, partners, because that is something that globally, is most talked about when it comes to men. What is the focus on problems with sexuality is erectile dysfunction and premature ejaculation, right?
Yes.
But when it comes to women, the first thing that they talk about, oh, my wife is like a cold fish, right? And this is a concept that's global. Every nation and every culture, they use the phrase of cold fish according to their terminologies, according to their culture. But the concept is the same thing, right? And I would like to also, to say what happens that kills a female sex drive, and it's not always an organic cause, even though organic cause can be a part of it sometimes, but majority of the time it's not, right?
Yes, the vast majority of the time it has to do with the relationship that the woman is in, and her not feeling close and connected enough for her to feel like she wants to be making love.
Exactly. So we would discuss that in detail when we get to that. And then just a summary of what we said. One of the factors that, impacts sex drive significantly, of course, is stress, right? And we know that stress, at work, at home, with other factors, financial, and all of that can impact both male and female, sex drive. The other one is partners that people have with each, problems that partners experience between the two of them, right? And then, and primarily, partner problems is based on poor communication, right? So, and then, we have our ebook coming up soon, which we talk about in many of these significantly. We actually have a full chapter on communication,
we do.
Right? And we talk about, what are the significance of healthy communication that prevents, that prevents having the sense of intimacy, the sense of chemistry, the sense of attractiveness and attraction. So communication has a lot to do with having a healthy sex life together. And once that poor communication takes place, obviously, problems among partners happens. And therefore, the first thing that is, impacts is, a healthy sex relationship, right?
Exactly.
Right. So we just got our notice that we are going to have our commercial break, and I will continue with the summary of what we have said after break, and then we will continue with the rest of it that we haven't talked about. And this summary is important for those listeners who are just joining us today, and we appreciate that you're following up with us. So please join us right after this. Thank you. Welcome back from our commercial. This is Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 90 AM ABC News Radio. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here. We are discussing what causes low sex drive in partners, and we would like for you to please join us by calling us as well. Our phone number live here is 951-922-3532. Also, please introduce this program to those that you believe they can benefit from. Your contribution to this program is really valued. And also, we would like to hear from you because after all, this program belongs to you. You can also visit us at YouTube, Heart-2-Heart.online/YouTube. So, Dr. Jaffe, we were talking about what kills, sex drive. We went over stress and problem partners. The next one is alcohol. We see that people say having, a couple of drinks before sex enhances the quality of sex. But usually we don't stop at a couple of drinks, right?
Yeah.
Usually it goes more, right? And therefore, what happens, that actually alcohol actually is a sex drive killer. It's not an enhancer, that's for sure, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to have a drink,
right?
And you stop at one drink and you get in a little more relaxed place. That's one thing. It's another thing to have, and I'm talking about drinks. Wine is of course not as potent as hard liquor,
right?
But anything more than a glass or two of wine begins to have a counter effect.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, I know of myself. Mm-hmm. If I have more than 2 glasses of wine, I'll fall asleep. So,
and that's a sex killer.
That's a sex killer. There you go.
That is.
So, yeah, I mean, alcohol has different impact on different people. Some people say that they become energetic. They may feel that way, but bottom line, we know alcohol is a sex killer.
For the most part. Yes.
Right. And then the other problem that we talk about, having privacy, and then what happens during COVID in particular, having kids definitely causes lack of privacy. And then some people have their in-laws living with them as a result. So we know that it's a sex drive killer. And it's nobody's fault. It is what it is. Sometimes we have to live with each other, but then again, that cannot be an excuse. So what you can do is take a weekend break, take a 1 week break, take some break for yourself and for your partner, so that sex doesn't go away and doesn't become secondary in life, because that's important. The other one we talked about was variety of medication, and we know that medications do have side effects. And then one of the general side effect is to impact sex drive, which is in most part, it lowers that. And it would be nice for physicians if they are listening to us. We appreciate, you listening to us. But, our request is that when you're prescribing a medication to your patient, please go over the fact that medication can or may impact their sex drive. I know that from my own research that you as a physician don't want to talk about sex. So I'm not going to go over the details. You and I both know the details. Okay. So maybe that requires a different program of its own. However, that's not an excuse. Realistically, patients need to be aware. They must be aware of how the medication, not only how it impacts their, diagnosis that they have been coming to see you, they also need to know what else the medication, does in their body, which is lowering their sex drive. Because, if I want to, go over the number of times that I have had couples here because of medication impacting their sex drive, how many number I can tell you, but for depression, for heart disease, for so many factors, medications lower sex drive, and then we don't need to unnecessarily alarm couples about about why the sex drive is low, and we don't want them to go in their assumptions and start attacking each other based on the assumptions, because that actually happens. And then the next one is poor body image. So we know that how, people, in particular now, I mean, we are in 21st century, and we know that having a perfect body, and then that perfect body is based on the modeling that we have, that we see in society. The modeling is commercials. The modeling is porn industry, movies, all those fashion models, Victoria's Secret, all that they come up with these female, presenters of their designs, that they have this exceptional, body shape, right? And so we learned that over time that they represent us women, and we need to look like them. Why? Because men apparently look at, they love to look at those bodies, right? What we see on magazines, what we see in movies, right? So the skinnier these days, probably the better. I don't know about that, but uh, what I see among my clients, and they come in and they complain that, if they had a better shape, probably their partner would have been, more loving to them. And so that is something that is really hurtful. That is something that is really, it's a biased thought to have, and is really damaging the relationship. Intimacy, chemistry, romantic relationship, connection, love. Not that a good body is not important, but it's not a prime criteria. It cannot be a prime criteria. Even though I see it, many times as a prime criteria. And the reality is that, for how many years can a female, for example, maintain that perfect body, right? A perfect body starts from age 13 all the way to age maybe 25, at the most 30. So what about the rest of our life, which is the most of our lives, right? So, I mean, is this a kind of a discrimination to look at, a female because due to a variety of factors, they have lost that perfect muscle tone, perfect skin tone, perfect, what is believed to be perfect. And I even don't know if skinny means perfect. However, it does, impact relationships. It does impact, falling in love. It does impact, maintaining romantic, contacts. And at the same time, we see that when a female needs, struggles to stay in a perfect shape, we see that, for example, their male partner themselves, not only they don't have a perfect shape, but they're so oblivious about their shape, and they don't care, and they think because men are men, they can look any way they look. And these are other myths of society, unfortunately, and we see that society promotes that. So yes, so if a female doesn't feel like she has a sexy body, stays away from sex. Why? Because then she's going to be, targeted and shamed in a variety of ways. The other one is obesity. So we know that, when people are, obese, they often are also rejected, for sex. So that is kind of ties up with, having the, poor body image, perspective. Generally, both men and women who are overweight, the first thing they suffer is having, they have low self-esteem, and then, of course, the body image concept is there. So obesity is not just about, looking good. It also impacts, variety of our body functioning, like, overactive or underactive hormones, right? So overactive or underactive hormones impact sex drive. So if people believe that they are obese, then they need to do something about it and see their physicians to help them with the hormonal imbalance, low metabolism, metabolic syndrome. So there are a variety of factors that keeps a person at the obese level, and then if nothing is done about it, of course, not only it impacts, sex drive, but also impacts, their health overall, in general, right?
And I think it's also important to recognize that there may be some physiological factors that get in the way of people who are obese from losing the weight. And in addition, there's also very powerful psychological factors.
Yes.
And so you were saying to talk to their physician, and that is absolutely accurate. And it may be that the physician doesn't come up with anything, in which case then you know that your motivation to lose weight may be an issue. Or maybe you have a fear of having a better body or a different body, and perhaps there's psychological factors that get in the way. And that, of course, is not just about your relationship, it's also about how you feel about yourself, period. So if your self-esteem is down and you're overweight, then it's vital that you start dealing with the psychological factors. It could have to do with early trauma, could have to do with abusive relationships, could have to do with a number of things. And so to get your thinking in line with feeling good about yourself can take you a long way in terms of the desire to lose weight.
Yes, perfect. Which that takes us to the next two, sex drive killer kind of a concept. So one of the problems that happens, is, erection problems for men. Erectile dysfunction is something that happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that it happens to all the male, partners, but it does happen at some point, whether it's a, primary factor or it's a secondary factor, it happens. And then when it happens, there are solutions for it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's one of the, instead of hiding that and feeling embarrassed or ashamed about it, because that's what happens to men. They think, and then if somebody else finds out about it, they may make a joke about it. So those factors prevents a male partner to seek help, seek professional help, right? Sometimes there is a physiological problem associated with that. Sometimes it's psychological, and sometimes it's both.
Correct.
But in any case, getting help will help you to resolve the issue. And the other one is testosterone level, right? And then we know that's a fuel for sex drive in male partners, right? And then testosterone, lowers as men start to age, and that's a normal process. And then not all men actually, lose their sex drive because of low testosterone, but some may do, and there are help for that. So then again, instead of hiding that, it's best to seek professional help, to resolve that. And but if not, then it eventually impacts, relationship and sexual relationship with their partners. And so low testosterone doesn't mean that all men are going to lose their sex drive, but in some cases it does.
Yeah, and I want to add to that that denial, which is saying to yourself, I don't really have a problem, or my problem is not that big a deal, or it only happens occasionally. These are ways of tricking ourselves into believing that everything is okay.
Yeah.
And then if we trick ourselves and believe that everything is okay, it may come out in other ways, such as avoidance of sex, and making excuses why you don't want to have sex. And I think denial, you and I have been talking about maybe, actually writing a book on how powerful denial is. And what denial says is that I really don't have to deal with this, and there's really no problem. And if there is a problem, I can handle it on my own. And of course, if you have denial, then you can't identify what the problem is, and you can't seek help for it, because you're busy minimizing or making excuses for it. So exactly. I wanted to add that.
Exactly. Thank you for that. The other, sex drive killer is depression, and we know that depression, impacts many areas of life, including sex life. And depression happens again as a result of many situations, and sometimes it's organic, physiological, and sometimes it is not. But then again, today we have so many good, wonderful treatment for resolving depression. Both physicians can help, psychologists, therapists can help. So instead of allowing for the depression to take over, we would like to invite you to seek help with that. And the next one was menopause. And of course, just like men, as they age, they lose their testosterone level. Women, when they go into menopause, it's because of, their hormones are changing. Now, having said that, while it is believed that women who go through menopause, they are, they get dried up and they no longer have sex, well, that's what was believed to be the fact, but then again we know it is not. And many women have a much better sex life actually after their menopause. And for the dryness there are a variety of solutions, so that cannot be a reason to stop sex. But what happens with menopause is that women themselves, they start having a different view about themselves as women. It is as though, you know, their life is over because now they're gone to menopause. So then their sex life, their relationships, their romantic life, everything is over. Well, I'm here to say that absolutely this is not true. And menopause is just a beginning, a different, you know, beautiful phase of life, which is, you know, where you need to enjoy yourself every moment of it. Let's talk about this right after this commercial break. So, welcome back to Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here. We are offering today's program on some of the identifying some of the factors that kills, you know, sex drive both in male and female partners. And we're doing this from based on research and not based on the myths of the society. And that's what's important, you know, because we want you to get the facts and based on science. And we hope that this method helps you to clarify some of what you believe, you know, are true. And in fact, you know, when you listen to this, you see that they are, you know, ways of helping yourself. If in fact you have experienced some of this, or if you know of somebody who has been experiencing some of this and they share with you as their friend, as your friend, and you know, friends come together and they say, you know what, I have this problem and I don't know what to say about it or what to do about it. And they are not perhaps focusing on what's going on with them, but they are actually focusing on what their partner does or doesn't, which is lack of brings up to us to the lack of closeness, right? So we know that, intimate sex doesn't happen when the two partners do not feel close with each other, right? We know that intimacy is more than just sex, right? Sex happens once the intimacy is there. And if sex happens immediately, then, there is probably an immediate, attraction. Actually, I have my own disagreements with a group of my friends and colleagues when they say, that's not true. But then again, maybe this is something that, personal to me, that I believe when sex happens, immediately, then that doesn't allow for two people to get to know each other, at least at the basic level. And then sex becomes just about having sex. It's not about romance. It's not about intimacy. It's not about closeness in that case. It's not about love, which is, to me, is or the feeling of in love, which to me is needs to take place. And the chemistry, the closeness, the intimacy. And we are writing about that in our book. If those don't happen, there is no closeness.
Right. And what we're talking about, of course, is having intimate sex.
Right.
Because it's easy for a lot of people to have non-intimate sex.
Right.
And we're not here making a judgment about that.
Right.
That non-intimate sex can be very fun and very satisfying, but it's not going to be the same as intimate sex. And so what we're talking about is in a committed relationship, most people want more intimate sex.
Right. And what we are offering here as to what kind of, impacts sex drive in a negative way, primarily is referring to intimate relationships. I mean, two people, if they want to have sex, some people have sex partners. which is not based on, anything romantic.
Friends
right?
with benefits.
Friends with benefits, exactly. So that's a relationship on its own.
Yeah.
Right. And but for intimacy, to have that intimate relationship going on, closeness is important.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's what we are talking about here. So the best thing when that happens, again, instead of getting hurt, instead of getting angry, instead of keeping an isolated perspective, it's best to talk to each other to understand what's going on. And if you feel that talking with each other is not giving you the answer that is helpful for the resolution of the problem, then that's the time when you go and ask for help, professional help.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And there are many people, like myself, that we are here that we can help you with that problem, and of course you and Dr. Jaffe. So you're all here to help you with what's going on, and how you can overcome these kind of sexual issues, because to maintain that closeness, there is a need for healthy communication again. Right.
Right.
So healthy communication is a communication where you can be yourself and I can be myself, and without any fear, without any sense of judgment, without any sense of accusation, without any sense of I am right and you're wrong, and you're not paying attention to me, and what's going on, and are you having an affair, or you don't like me anymore. And so making it such a what do you call it, making it such a dramatic situation, and just going by assumptions and by toxic beliefs about oneself, we can actually kill a relationship that way.
Yeah, and I believe that drama occurs when communication breaks down.
Yeah.
Because people get dramatic
Right.
when their feelings are very big, and that means that they haven't been expressing their feelings all along.
Right.
Or they have been, but they haven't been recognized or responded to, and so they just build up and they get frustrated, and then drama occurs.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And which that brings us to talking about, or at least within the last few minutes that we have, to introduce the global view of female low sex desire.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
We have talked about men low sex desire in the prior programs, and if needed, we're going to go back to it and bring it in, of
Mm-hmm.
course.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to start with low sex desire, so in women. And so generally speaking, when we look at it, the female sex desire naturally kind of fluctuates over the years. Mm-hmm. Right. From the first moment that a female during puberty, that she experiences her sexuality, to putting it in practice through teen years, through marriage, through relationships and everything, and then going through childbirth and menopause, there is always some level of change in their sex drive, right? How relationship happens in a female's life across the years, whether early on or later or much later, how a female feels about herself in that relationships, it does have most of the time a direct impact on how she can be sexual or not. Mm-hmm. In general. I mean, again, we are talking about romantic relationship here.
Romantic committed relationships.
Committed relationships.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it is different in uncommitted relationships, where you don't see the person all the time,
Yeah.
or perhaps maybe even have a variety of partners.
Right.
That's not what we're talking about here.
Right. Exactly. Right. So we want to know basically what's going on. What are some of the symptoms of low sex drive in women? So we see that for some reason at some point in life, depending on variety of reason, a female has no interest in any type of sexual activity, and that includes masturbation.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We see that they have stopped having or seldom have any sexual fantasies or thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And also we see that uh, they are they are actually becoming concerned themselves that they can't even having a fantasy about having sex with somebody.
Right. Right.
So the fantasy is gone, the desire is gone, the masturbation is gone. Don't get excited when they look at the, even they don't even have a desire to look at a porn movie or any romantic movie is actually a turn off sometimes to them. So these are some of the symptoms that we understand that the females, sexual desire has lowered and some are lowered more than the other ones, right? Uh, that's when it's best to talk to a sex therapist, to talk to physicians, so that physicians can rule out the organic causes, and then with the sex therapists who can understand what's going on more in depth. But in general, we know that that sex desire is based on a complex interaction of many things that those are including that affecting intimacy, and those are including physical and emotional well-being experiences, sexual experiences, beliefs, lifestyle, and then also current relationships that we have, right? One of the factors, of course, we're not going to be able to cover all of that today, but one of them that I like to introduce today that we know significantly and for the most part silently exists, right, among many women. And when I talk to my couples, it's very interesting that they say, "Oh no, I'm very open to sexuality." And then, but when we talk about it, we see that a concept of sexual shame, which is a social factor, runs actually very much deep in them.
Yeah. Well, it's a social and psychological factor.
Well, yeah.
Certainly, there's a lot of shame if there's abuse attached to it.
Right.
So any kind of abuse that a person undergoes, that person can experience a great deal of shame.
Right.
And certainly, if the abuse is sexual abuse, then there's going to be sexual shame. But it's not just that, and you're saying it correctly. I think that it's also cultural.
It is culture, because we are not born with the concept of shame, are we?
No, my 2.5-year-old granddaughters take off their clothes and run around naked.
There you go. So she doesn't know what is shame. She doesn't know how to feel guilty about wanting to run, naked. When she's having lots of fun. From what I have seen that, and I said, "Oh my goodness, how free she feels. Good for you."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And her parents, don't shame her at all. Her parents are watching over her, so that she's not hurt. If she hits her body somewhere, as they're very careful. But then again, they're not. How do I say that? They're not shaming her because she's enjoying her body.
Right.
She loves to go under the sun with her body,
Yeah.
and
She just discovered that she can pick her nose.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. She's always got the finger up the nose now. Wow, this is so cool.
Well, yeah, and if it's she's not, successful in one, she can use the other one.
That's right.
Anyway, so yeah, sexual shame is something that we learn about it since childhood.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, female, how does it start? When we are telling, our female child, cover up yourself, you're not a boy,
Mm-hmm.
or pull your pant, don't just pull your panty down in public, right, as a child, or a girl doesn't walk around naked like that, you're not a boy, or pull your skirt down, or oh, you're pretty because you wear that, so
Mm-hmm.
you're not pretty if you don't wear something pretty,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so it is as though you by yourself are not good enough.
And I think what you're talking about is so important, because what that does to the little girl child is it links her attractiveness with her worth.
Yes.
So she's only attractive and worth something if somebody comments on how attractive that is.
And that's the beginning of problem with body image.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
add obesity on top of that, right?
Right.
It becomes a lifelong challenge and problem for a female that, with just simple few sentences and approach in childhood, we set somebody up to, having negative view of herself as a female, not being able to enjoy her sexuality, not even being able to identify with her sexuality, and therefore to understand her sexuality and to learn about herself as as female sexual, and with that concept, comes into the relationship, any relationship.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
We're talking about, work relationship, we're looking at friend-friend relationship, and we're looking at intimate relationship. So, my body not good enough, and I'm a female, and, I have limitations and all of that. So sexual shame is run, when they say it run deep, is because of how early it starts and continues.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And this is a very important topic, and I would like to invite you to please join us the next time, next week Thursday at this hour, 3 o'clock, so we can talk about it and learn about this more. And I would like to invite you to join us today at 4 o'clock, so we can listen to another episode of Codependency, Relationship, Trauma, and Addiction with Dr. Robert Jaffe. So we were looking forward to see you in a short few minutes today. And until then, don't forget that all you need is love.
All you need is love. See you soon.
See you soon.